Hi guys, it's time to do the pink plants. My name's Kirsten and today I want to talk all about pink plants and what makes them sort of do what they do and be pink and so joyous, and the different ways that the pink shows up in different plants and why, essentially. Kind of some theorizing as well, which might not be based on anything, but hey, let's go with it. The pink is caused by a group of plant pigments called anthocyanins, and there's like loads of reasons why it happens. In a lot of our cultivars, we've just kind of bred them that way because they're pretty and there's not a real reason for it to happen. So this group of pigments, the anthocyanins, are responsible for the kind of red and black colours that you see in fruits and in flowers as well. And it's kind of largely, I mean, it's definitely, because I was going to say it's largely accepted, but it's definitely for the bright colours to be attracting pollinators to the flowers or small animals to the fruits so that the plants can sort of, you know, spread their progeny. But it also shows up on leaves for several different reasons as well. So I wanted to start by talking about my Syngonium Neon Robusta. This is a very popular one. Obviously it's beautiful. The leaves come in very pink. The pink is literally just on the top layer. So if you look at the bottom of the leaves, they are completely green, and even the middle layer of the leaves is completely green. And what happens is, so they come in like this with this top layer very pink, and then it kind of fades over time, as you can see there, and kind of there you can see the green coming through further, and then as it gets sort of older, you end up kind of having this beautiful blush in the middle of the leaves, but they are kind of mainly green, which is really cool. I mean, this is a cultivar, so yeah, it wouldn't, there's no purpose for this apart from the fact that we really enjoy it. But we see this sort of thing happen quite commonly with a lot of plants anyway. So, you know, you have a lot of Anthuriums come in kind of like that very reddy colour, pinkish, and then go through and developing and turning green over time as they harden off. I think that this is a different process to that. Why they do that is, well, I mean, there's like several reasons that a plant might want to do that in the wild. So anthocyanins are also known as plant sunscreen, which is why a lot of plants turn red when you sun stress them, because they are protecting themselves. To be honest, I'm not a botanist, so I don't know, but I would hazard a guess. Please don't quote me on it, but I would say it is a good guess that this is a protective thing for new leaves when they come out, so that they don't get kind of scorched. Again, I'm going to say a guess. However, this is not like that at all. The pink stays on this, you know, it'll take at least a year before it goes down to this kind of colour here. Yeah, it takes quite a long time. So why it's doing it, who knows? It's a cultivar, so, you know, we've cooked it up, and I'm not sorry about that. But it's lovely to see the kind of journey that it goes through. You get the Florida ghosts and all of those kinds of plants, but the fact that this is such a gradual process as well is really interesting. And it kind of almost goes more vibrant towards the bottom because it's more green at the bottom. The next plant I want to talk about is the Alternanthera party time plant. And this is, I mean, that's just gorgeous, isn't it? I have brought this back from the dead. I have been through the mill with this one, but I seem to have a kind of care routine. I've just left it in sphagnum moss. Like, I know that this is like a very tricky plant and everybody wants to keep it, and it's quite difficult. It's quite a difficult one to keep. But I would say if you are having trouble with it, I mean, the roots are very, very thin, but I would say propagate what you can in sphagnum moss and just leave it there. You know, you can leave a plant in sphagnum moss for the entirety of its life, by the way. This isn't a care video, but like, I just think it's important with this plant because obviously it is very hard. I wouldn't say that I know how to deal with it successfully, but I know how to kind of bring it back from the brink of death and get some success with it. So as I did bring it back from the brink of death, this is an interesting one because the pink doesn't show up all that much early on. I've got ones here that are basically almost all green the whole way up and are just shooting out their first kind of pink leaves here. You know, it just wants to survive. It needed all the chlorophyll it could get. What's going on here? It's another cultivar, but what we've got is sectoral variegation. So it's all the way through on most of them. Some of them it's not, but I would say it's like more commonly all the way through, which is really satisfying. I mean, you really get a lot of bang for your buck. That is a very bright, beautiful pink. But you know what? I don't know how to pronounce this, but the Alternanthera, I think it's ficoidea or ficoidea. I'm going to put the name of it down below, but that actually, again, comes in pink and then it kind of fades to more creamy silvery colours after that. So it has the pinkness in it, which is what's happened, I guess, with this cultivar here. But interestingly, the leaves are like a totally different shape to the mother species, if you will. And it's just got this sectoral sort of almost block on the chlorophyll in these areas. And that's very, very beautiful. I think it's more beautiful poisonally than an elbow plant. If you want a pink plant, this is the plant, basically. The pink princess, which I will talk about in a moment, is nowhere near as pink and as jolly as this. The common name for this plant is Joseph's coat, which is pretty awesome, like Joseph and his Technicolor Dreamcoat from the Bible, not Andrew Lloyd Webber. But yeah, it's very yeah, I love it. I'm just like massively into this plant. You know, it's all about the party time. It's absolutely brilliant. Everyone should try and grow it. I know it's tricky. I do think if you have issues, sphagnum moss, because its roots are so fine and it sucks up water. I've never known a plant as thirsty as this. I really haven't. It's unbelievably thirsty. It's a super cool plant. And speaking of super cool plants, I want to talk to you today about the Saxifraga stolonifera, or strawberry begonia, which is its common name. This is the tricolor version. So you get ones that are kind of just green and have this pink ready back, but this one comes in with the white around the margins, which then comes in super pink. Hold on, now let's try this. It comes in super pink if you give it lots of sun like that when it's a newbie. And again, I guess this is possibly to protect itself, and it has these wonderful babies as well. So it shoots off these stolons and has the babies at the end, and it's a lot like a kind of strawberry plant or spider plant. It's a spreader in the wild, not a hanging plant. But of course, if we have it as a hanging plant, it does this. Funnily enough, though, I've noticed this stolon here is actually climbing up, and that's strange because it really is not a climbing plant. So that's odd. You can propagate this just by, you know, chopping off these babies and putting them in soil. It's exactly like trying to propagate a spider plant. And I think it's pretty cool. So yeah, as I said, the non-variegated one is much more of a kind of like mulberry on the back, and it's green on the fronts. But you get the kind of like more redness through the veining, which doesn't show at all on this. On this one here. Apparently it's totally hardy in the UK, so considering this, I think I might try that one in my garden for next year, so that would be pretty fun. Although it does seem like it might be a bit invasive. I might think about this. So when the leaves come in, apart from being very kind of pink around the margins, they are also quite sort of thick and succulent, and the larger the leaf gets, the kind of thinner it gets, but it's still always quite kind of fleshy. It's got hair all over it, which means you cannot get it wet, which is a bit annoying, so it's quite difficult to water, but it's doing all right. And as the leaf ages, then the pinkness goes out of the variegation, and you get this lovely creamy edge. but it's still pink on the back, which is again something that's like super common in plants, to have pink backings or red backings or something. So that's my stoloniferia. Do you know what? I'm seeing these at all of the shops at the moment. And I mean, they're cheap as chips, you know, they're never going to stop being cheap as chips just because, you know, they propagate themselves like this. But I do think it's like a nice one to have. It is definitely fun. It behaves a little bit like a begonia, but it's a bit more forgiving. I can see why they call it the strawberry begonia, although, you know, you can always tell it's got these symmetrical leaves as opposed to the asymmetrical begonia. And, you know, it hasn't died on me. I've got it hanging right in a north-facing window, and there's not really like any buildings in the way or anything, so it is quite a bright spot. It's kind of perfect really, so it gets loads and loads of bright indirect light. It's and that's why it's doing so well, and it's so pink. Here's a cool plant that nobody in the plant community really talks about. It is an Anthurium andreanum. And this is a cultivar. It is the hot lips cultivar. So what happens here is with all anthuriums is basically this here is the kind of spadex of which there would be these tiny little flowers on. And this is actually just a misshapen leaf. I'm assuming what it's doing here is quite often in the aroid family, like for instance, you get the spathe of a peace lily, the white spathe, which again is a misshapen leaf, and that's there to kind of almost protect it. This one here, although this isn't a colour that kind of occurs on it naturally, if you look at a naturally occurring andreanum, you can see they're quite sort of large and bright, and I think that that would be very attractive. This would be attracting pollinators essentially. And look how many there are coming out there as well. So we should have loads more of these lovely, lovely pink flowers. I do think, you know, they are everywhere. This is like the most common one, but I feel almost like nobody wants to collect these, and they're so fun. Also, when the leaves come out, and there aren't any new leaves coming out at the moment, but when they come out quite kind of burgundy coloured and soft and shiny and burgundy coloured, and so they have their own colour journey as well. So it is a really interesting plant, and of course it's extremely hardy, and well, it's not hardy. It's not hardy like you can't plant it in your garden in like cold temperatures. What I mean by that is that it can take a punch. You shouldn't underwater it, obviously, but you can get away with underwatering it and it will survive. This is a true wonderful survivor. It is not fussy, and you just get so many different colours of these. They're absolutely lovely. So these leaves, they stay like this, they stay this pink, but when the kind of flowers are spent, or in like my situation, they just like die, they turn dark green on this particular plant. That's not the case with all Anthurium andreanums, but on this particular plant they turn dark green. But this leaf will stay like this for the duration of its life, but it doesn't last as long as these other leaves because it doesn't have any useful pigment to the plant. So once the flower's dead, it just kind of slowly, very, very slowly fades away. But it's nice. It's just a very interesting journey to watch. And now the plant that everybody's actually been waiting for, which is the pink princess. So I hauled this a couple of videos ago, and it's given me quite a few leaves since then that were quite highly variegated, but there was an accident in my former plant room. It was in the loft and a bird got in, and it got trapped in the loft, and it started to panic, and it was flying all around the room, and it knocked this over. It knocked a lot of things over. Actually, this bird got it was a tiny little sparrow. It caused quite a lot of damage, but 3 leaves were knocked off this and a growth point, and those leaves were beautifully variegated. Anyway, sob story over. This basically is another one that is this kind of sectoral variegation, these kind of chlorophyll dead spots, which are very beautiful. The pink princess is a mutation of the Philodendron erubescens red emerald. The red emerald, obviously, as you can imagine from the name, is where the excess of anthocyanins are coming from. You also get the white princess, and that's also a mutation of the erubescens red emerald, except that is obviously a chimeric elbow variegation, as opposed to this, which still has the kind of anthocyanins coming through. Okay, tell me if this is like just one of those sort of scams or something, but I keep on seeing the Philodendron white princess tricolor or something like that that's being sold at the moment, and it's basically when you get a white princess with like a random bit of pink every now and then. And to me that just looks like, you know, it's a really pretty thing, but it just looks like a weak variegation, right? I mean, I don't know. Is it a stable thing? Is it a proper thing? I don't have one, so I can't say. It just that's just what it looks to me on when I see them online. But I mean, not to say that they're not beautiful. That's that one. That's the white princess tricolor. This is just a pink princess. With this being sectoral variegation, you have like a big chunk there, and that's through all 3 layers. But here you have one there, the pink is on the top layer, then there it's on the top and the middle layer. But if you look there on that particular area, it's not on the back. So we don't have this kind of big splodge there. And it's just really cool. It's an interesting plant. I like it. It is a very fast grower. I mean, it's had quite a few leaves. Granted, they were knocked off, but it does spit out leaves pretty quickly, so that's real satisfying, obviously. So yeah, as the prices kind of come down on these, I would suggest that, you know, this is a good one for people to pick up. I didn't think it was worth it when they were, you know, £300 or something stupid. I don't really think most plants are worth £300, if I'm honest. They really aren't, and this is just far too easy to grow for that to be just a justified price as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, interesting. So yeah, it's a beautiful plant. I'm really enjoying it. I mean, obviously the pink is a mutation that just happened because we tissue cultured it, and it was, you know, persistent variegation. So of course it was going to, you know, be attractive to people with this colouring. However, it, you know, it doesn't serve any kind of real purpose other than just for us to look at and find beautiful. And finally, I have my Stromanthe Triostar, which has the green and cream variegation almost kind of painted on. But the star of the show is these fuchsia backs. There's no plant in the world that I've seen with this on the backs of the leaves. Typically it's a lot darker on the back, so this is a prayer plant. You do often see the purples and the darker sort of reddishy, purpley, dark colours on the back of leaves, but nothing kind of this bright, and it's just stunning, isn't it? And the cool thing about it is this is creamy variegation, but it turns this cream on the front almost like a blush pinky. Oh, it's just so cool. It's just absolutely wonderful. I love looking at it. And because it's a prayer plant and it moves all day, you always get a flash of the underside of these leaves at some point in the light. And I just, yeah, this is, there's nothing that doesn't make me happy about this plant. It's absolutely epic. I'm growing it in pon, by the way. Some of these crispy leaves are from the kind of change over into pon. It didn't really enjoy the whole process. No surprise. But I would say that this, out of all of the prayer plants, is probably one of the easier ones. I think it's actually a little bit easier than just like a straightforward Maranta as well, actually. So that's pretty cool. I do recommend for that reason. There's another one though. They are low light. Typically when you see the backs of the leaves like that, they tend to be kind of plants that can tolerate a little bit more low light in general. However, when you do give it lower light, you get less of the kind of white. And that's kind of what's happened with these ones. I mean, that's basically all green. The second you put it into a little bit higher light, then you'll start seeing the cream come back. It's not something that's going to disappear. This is a persistent, stable variegation, which is awesome. And again, you can pick these up at big bookstores. You can pick them up anywhere, and they tend to be at a pretty good price. What else was I going to say about this? Don't put it in a window though. I know I've sort of said, oh, if you give it a bit more light, then it'll give you this creamy. No direct sun, like no direct sun, no direct light, no, not too much sort of like heat. No, it will fry. It will absolutely fry. They are so sensitive to light in that regard. But you know, again, when we say low light, that does not mean no light. This is another cultivar. So it's the species is the sanguinea or something, and this is the Triostar version, but it's just more commonly known as the Stromanthe Triostar. There is a beauty star as well, and then you can just actually get, what's it, the Charlie, which is much plainer, but I like this one because it's just so absolutely, like, it's making no bones about the fact that it wants to party, is it? So that's a summary of my pink plants at the moment. I have had other pink plants, you know, a few Phytonias, RIP. Well, you know, they were fun for a while. For an overwaterer, you'd think I'd be all right with a Phytonia. No. And when you go into Phytonia land, then there are so many different shades of pink. So if you're looking for a pop of pink, that might be a good way to start too, if you can handle the watering. Anyway, it was super fun to share this with you. I hope you all have a great day. If you've got any pink plants, then let me know what your experience is of, well, if you've got any of the ones I've got. And also, like, if you, like, what kind of plants are on your list? Do you have any pink plants on your list that maybe I should look out for that I haven't spoken about? If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see more. Cheerio.